Hey there, friends. So today I am going to be responding to another comment on my Instagram post last week asking people what sort of design topics they'd like to hear about. And the one I'm going to be addressing today is very sort of seasonal. It's very appropriate right now with all of us stuck indoors and the weather's getting warmer. I'm going to be talking about how we can create beautiful spaces or design beautiful spaces outside our home. So whether it's our front porch or our backyard, our Zen garden, whatever it is, just going to be addressing 3 key things, or I guess tools that you can use to create a beautiful outdoor space. And so the first thing I would say about creating an outdoor space is actually that a lot of the same things apply, creating an outdoor space to creating an indoor space. Really, I say this often in my videos and always to clients that it's about creating experience. Design is about creating an experience in your spaces, and this is exactly the same when it comes to an outdoor space. You know, how do you want to feel in that space? Do you want it to feel fun and playful? Do you want it to feel peaceful and calm? Do you want it to feel energizing? Do you want it, whatever the case may be. So I would say the first thing to do is just decide how you want this beautiful little outdoor space to feel. And then you can apply these 3 different aspects of design. Number 1 is textiles. So when I say textiles, I mean rugs, I mean throw cushions, I mean hangings or blankets or whatever the case may be. And this is a really great thing a simple things to apply to an outdoor space without having to invest loads in making it look beautiful. So you can have the most basic patio set, whether it's a table or a little chaise or a little bistro set. You could spend next to nothing on your furniture and still make it look beautiful because of the textiles. So outdoor cushions, rugs. So outdoor rugs are a bit different than indoor rugs, obviously, because of the materials that are used, but you can get really creative. I've often found really awesome things at flea markets, like old sort of polyester type blankets or Moroccan rugs or things. Now, not wool or cotton, but there are a lot of really interesting materials out there. I've turned a lot of really beautiful textile products into outdoor rugs. So it's not like you have to go and purchase a rug, because purchasing an indoor rug can be very, very expensive. Whereas outdoor rugs, are a little more cheap and cheerful. You can be more playful, and in case it gets ruined, you don't want to be spending tons of money on it anyway. And when it comes to throw cushions, you can either purchase them or you can also you can actually purchase outdoor fabric. So you can actually go and purchase 1, 2, 3, 4 yards of an outdoor fabric that's fun or colorful or floral or playful or whatever it is, and have some cushions made yourself. And this is a really good way of fully customizing that outdoor space to really suit you. But again, it's not super expensive to do this, relatively speaking. Again, keeping most of your pieces very inexpensive and sort of throwing a little love, a little zhuzh, a little visual interest, and a little money into the sort of decorative aspects. Textiles are number 1. Number 2 is, of course, if you're creating an outdoor space, you want to consider plants. You want to consider, if you're already in the outdoor space, how can you capture that feeling that you want with plants, with flowers? And so some of this is going to come down to doing a seasonal gardening plan of what will come up, what will grow in certain months, what things will flower in certain months, but also just maybe you want to plant a really interesting tree in the backyard. A few years ago, we planted a Japanese red maple in the back corner and sort of integrated it into our landscape. And it creates this really beautiful line. It creates this rich, deep color, and we light it in the winter and the summer, and it creates this beautiful feeling. It adds so much feeling and so much texture and so much life to the backyard. And so making an investment in beautiful plants. Also, either purchasing or making your own potters, right? Because if we take the textiles that we were working with before, so say you picked a floral print and it has yellow and lime green and coral. Okay, so you can take that fabric and you can say, or that rug or whatever it is, and say, okay, what flowers would look really beautiful with this? And again, when you're working with color, you can either do matching or you can do complementary. So if I'm working with yellow, for example, I can either choose to amplify that and put flowers in my potters or in my garden that actually, that actually match that yellow, or I can put complementary things in that really make the yellow pop. So I could do like yellow and pink, for example, would be very beautiful, right? Yellow and lavender, right? Adding some of those purples in. So you can either do complementary or you can do matching. But regardless, definitely thinking of the plants in your outdoor space actually as part of your literal design for that space. And again, coming back to the idea of the feeling, like nothing captures a feeling tone better than beautiful flowers, better than like colorful living things. And so for me, I mean, plants are a huge part of my investment when it comes to my outdoor space, and even when it comes to my indoor space. I never, there's not a room, a space in my home that does not have some sort of plant life in it. And so I think just the energy of the outdoors, and really, I mean, in an outdoor space, you are already outdoors, but really amplifying it and taking that life and taking that connection to nature and all the physical and mental benefits we get from that, and just like pumping it up, like dialing up the volume of that natural beauty and that naturally existing magnificent colors of beautiful Mother Nature and all of these things. So that's number 2. And the last thing I would suggest is, and this, you might not think about this when it comes to outdoor spaces, but styling items. So in your home, for example, if you have a dining room console, or if you have, it could be any part of your space, but oftentimes we use styling items, right? So styling items, if you're not familiar with them, are taking specific items to create a little visual vignette in your home. So using books or sculptural items or plants or whatever the case may be to create these little visual vignettes. And we can do the same thing outdoors. I actually have found a lot of beautiful little items at garden centers to create like surfaces. So if we have a side table, this is another thing when it comes to styling, is actually using little surfaces. And outdoors, the beautiful thing about creating outdoor spaces is that you don't actually have to use furniture. Like, for example, I have 3 or 4 different sort of tables and vignettes in the backyard, but only one of them is actually a table. So some of them are turned over flower pots that look really beautiful when I put a couple items on them. One is sort of like an ottoman that I've turned into a quasi table that has a few things on it. So just getting creative with how you can style your space. And also when it comes to the styling items, keeping in mind that you can style just as you would normally, but just with maybe slightly different items. So obviously we're not going to put books outside, on our rainy days we're going to have like soggy styling items in the garden. But there are lots of really cool items that are metal, right? Like beautiful natural pieces, either metal or wood, or even, oh my gosh, I got the cutest little turtle that's in the garden, and I think it's actually made of plastic, but it adds some color, and every time I look at it, it makes me smile. And so creating vignettes with different types of items in different materials and different colors, and so in that way it's really the same as what you would do in your home, and it's just about getting a little outside the box and getting a little creative. And so in terms of styling items, yes, you can visit a garden center and you can go with items that are actually for the purpose of designing outdoor spaces, but you can also just get creative with what you have around the home. You can get creative if you're antiquing, looking for things at Goodwill that have like beautiful lines, have beautiful patterns on them. I mean, oh my gosh, the number of beautiful things I found for like $2.99 at Goodwill is a huge long list. So really just thinking of your outdoor space just like you think of your indoor space. And so what I would suggest to do to get going now with those little tidbits of inspiration is I would create a little board for yourself, like a vision board, or you can do a Pinterest board. Just go on and find a few spaces that inspire you in terms of their color palette, in terms of the foliage that's used, in terms of the layout. That's one thing that I didn't mention actually so far in this video. It's just when you're thinking about the layout of an outdoor space, you really can think of it as being similar to what you're doing indoors. So you want to think about the vantage point. So if I put a little chaise here, what is this person seeing? Are they in the sun, in the shade? Are they looking at the flowers? Are they looking at the fence? When I back up this chair on the table, is it gonna fall off the edge of the deck? These silly example, but just sort of like considering, the sort of energetic comfort of the space. Because you may say, oh, well, I have this tiny little deck, there's not much I can do, but really, I've found sometimes even changing the angle on a chair can make a difference in an outdoor space, right? Because in an outdoor space, really what you want is you want the view, you want the experience, you want to amplify the plants, the trees, the sky. That's what you want people to be looking at, right? That's what you want to be looking at when you're sitting there. So really just taking a creative view of like what you could do with the furniture. Could you put a little bench out at the end of the yard, so that you can sit under a tree and hear nature a little more than you would if it was like smack dab against the house? Could you put a little hammock on a hammock stand, along your fence? Just sort of like, again, just always just getting outside of the box a little bit on the options for what it means to experience your space. And the biggest suggestion I would make is literally just to have fun. Just like play. Like literally that is what we do outside, right? Ever since we were little, we like to play. We like to enjoy ourselves. So the one last thing I would leave you with is just how can you make your outdoor space joyful, right? Because that's the point of any space, indoors or outdoors. It's like, how can I make this space just feel amazing to be surrounded by? And so that's the one thing that I would let sort of guide you in this process of creating your beautiful outdoor oasis. So I hope this was super helpful. And yeah, as always, feel free to reach out to me if there's any topics you'd like me to create a video on, or if you have any questions or comments, of course, comment below. And sending you so much love and light and health and happiness and everything awesome from my heart to yours. Until next time, sweet friends.